I'm back. Good morning. And of course, I was talking to myself for a minute, but don't worry about it. Welcome to Breakfast Extra and happy Sunday. And I hope you're warm and you're shaking off this flu just like me that has been hopping around like it's on tour, hitting everybody it meets. And honestly, it's been a gloomy week. Insecurity, abductions. It feels like every day something tries to steal our peace, like this mic this morning. But here's on Breakfast Extra. We're breaking it down, bringing clarity, and yes, holding on to a little hope. Because while many of us are gearing up for Dirty December, the concerts, trips, family plan, that holiday glow, the security reality on the ground is telling a different story. And this week, the Borno state governor raised a warning that should concern every Nigerian, the Lake Chad region. And it's dangerously undersecured. Military presence is thinning out, communities are exposed, and the insurgency we've been battling for over a decade suddenly looks like it's catching a fresh breath. And when Lake Chad shakes, Nigeria feels it. Our borders, our farms, our food supply, our highways, everything becomes vulnerable. It's the same insecurity, just changing outfits. Banditry here, kidnappings there, communal clashes in the Middle Belt, highway attacks elsewhere, different faces, same problem. And let's talk about Benue for a moment. Benue isn't isolated. It borders Nasarawa, Taraba, Enugu, Kogi, Ebonyi, Cross River. That's literally all the states in Nigeria. That's a massive corridor. So when bandits hit a community, they don't vanish. They simply just shift. They move across states, they regroup, and they strike again. And Benue's problem isn't Benue's, it's Nigeria's. Until every state is safe, no state is truly safe. And sometimes insecurity in Nigeria feels like a stubborn tenant. You chase it out of one room and it quietly sneaks into another. And meanwhile, while we wrestle with these fires at home, the rest of the world is in South Africa for the G20 summit, the first ever on African soil. And this time, Africa isn't sitting at the back of the room. We're hosting, we're speaking, and we're pushing serious conversations on inequality, debt, climate change, and security. South Africa even launched a task force on global wealth inequality. African leaders are demanding fairer financial systems. Protests on gender-based violence are echoing loudly. It's a reminder, our issues aren't just African issues. They are human issues. And let's be honest, all these global conversations won't mean much if we don't fix our house at home. If Lake Chad is insecure, if Nigerians can't move from state to state without fear, or driving your bike from state to state like Mazino, if communities still sleep with one eye open, then how do we benefit from this global spotlight? Yet, if I say this with my full chest, Nigerians are resilient. We innovate through pressure, we rise through chaos, and somehow we still find a smile in the middle of it all. And maybe this season, this holiday, with so much light and glitz, the G20 energy and these national conversations is exactly the push we need to start getting things right. Because if Africa is finally being heard globally, Nigeria must show up strong locally. So as you walk into this new week, stay informed, stay safe, and stay hopeful. Yes, our challenges are loud, but our strength as Nigerians even louder. And of course, this is Breakfast Extra. And I'm not here alone. I'm with Mazino Peel. Morning, Mazino.
Good morning, but of course they already know because I made my way into your monologue there. I was on my own jeje, but thank you.
You are never jeje. It's Breakfast Extra. It's two of us.
Yes, indeed. Interesting stuff happening at the G20 because we get to talk about that plenty today.
Yes.
The dynamics with America's absence and how that is affecting the declarations. I really want to talk about that.
Exactly. Now that you've mentioned that, can we just quickly shift over to South Africa to our News Central correspondent, Bongani Siseba, who's currently at the G20 to give us some update. Bongani? Good morning, Bongani.
And Also, good morning to our viewers. It's day 2 of the G20 summit here in Nasrec, and delegates and heads of states are starting to arrive for the second session of the day. But I just want to take you through to show you how ready South Africa was or is for this event. Where I am standing now is where the security is. As you come in, as the media, you go through straight to this screen that you see here. I'm sure you can see my face, and it shows that Bongani Siziba, it shows that I'm granted. So the security is very tight. Then you move on to the media center here, where you can see the media sitting here, and so the security is very, very tight, and because there are heads of states that are here. But however, the second day of the summit has started now. As the media, we are not allowed to go in where the delegates are, but what we do know is that there will be closed sessions where they will be discussing about fair and just about the minerals, critical minerals, decent work, and also there will be presentations of recommendations from the G20 review. And after that, we know that there will also be the adoption of the summit document outcome. So it's going to be a very hectic day, not only for us, the media, but also for the delegates and the heads of states that are here second day. But it's also the closing day today. But as this all is happening, we know that there are still tensions between South Africa and the US. With the US, like we know that the US is not here, and they had earlier on said that they will be sending a junior delegate from the embassy, which President Cyril Ramaphosa said that is undermining South Africa. So they are not going to hand over the presidency to any junior person who they are going to send. And that made President of the US, Donald Trump, very furious, because he indicated that earlier on South Africa had agreed to just hand over to an empty chair. But South Africa also feels like the US is undermining them. So those tensions are still very high here. And South Africa saying that if the US doesn't send anyone who is at par or who is at the same level with the presidency, then it means that whenever they feel like they want that they want the presidency to be handed over to them, they will decide on what to do. But South Africa is done. The presidency they have to pass it over. But if the US is not there, so they have nothing to do but just to wait for the US to decide on what to do. But we also know that during that the discussions, Argentina is one country that was pulled out of this declaration, citing that the declaration speaks more about the war, and it also speaks more about what they call that the geopolitical issues. So the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, who is also a close ally of Donald Trump, quit the negotiations. Like I said, that they said it cannot be adopted, but this did not stop the adoption of these resolutions by the leaders that are here. So as we continue to monitor what is going on here, we are not allowed in the sessions, and as media, we'll be right here watching on the screens just to see what happens, and we'll keep you and our viewers updated.
Thank you so much, Bongani, for the update. We will, go back and forth with you, and of course, Israel is there to see how it's going. Well done, Bongani.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now moving on to more inside of Breakfast Extra for a Sunday morning. First off, we're going to be bringing you the dailies, but before we bring you the dailies, let's talk about what we expect for this week. It's going to be a very interesting week coming off of what we had from last week. If you remember, and it's not so long ago, everything that happened last week was one of doom and gloom. The security implications in Nigeria because of the renewed banditry and that we're being forced to use the word bandits now instead of terrorists and other things. So what will this new week bring? I would like to say I'm one of those people who is very excited about the week. I don't know what it might be, but to say that last week we did not hear any political campaigning is an understatement, because we heard nothing at all, because every single focus was on the security matters of Nigeria. So what will this week bring? Would we have more security talks, or would we go back to what we used to see, where everybody is electioneering?
Well, let's
That's
see.
the question I wait to see for this week.
Well, this is the last week of November. So let's hope that, in as much as we are, celebrating, Jesus Christ and Dirty December and everything, we also have to not let it cover or shift our attention from, insecurity. And, it's a bit sad that our week was just filled with so much gloom. And but again,
hey,
I'm hopeful.
Let's pick it up. Yeah, thank you very much.
I am hopeful.
Let's already begin. Welcome once again to Breakfast Extra, Mazzino and Queen Celestine. We start in Borno State, where the governor is raising alarm over security gaps around Lake Chad. And of course, Queen had said that earlier today. He was warning that the lack of full military presence could threaten communities. Now in Edo, we're going to talk about 31 suspects that have been arrested in Uromi following a violent cult clash, highlighting the ongoing challenge of insecurity in Nigeria. We'll also tackle health. The doctor's strike continues, even as the government says 19 of 20 demands have been met. Meanwhile, in Benue, rising tensions and a surge in violent crimes are forcing communities to confront safety and law enforcement challenges firsthand. All this coming up inside of Breakfast Extra. There is still more, because on the economic front, Black Friday is here. We explore how Nigerian consumers and brands and also prices are navigating the shopping frenzy. And for media and development enthusiasts, we look ahead to the 2023 Media and Development Conference in Abuja, focusing on democracy, data, and Africa's next decade. And finally, across borders, Africa's leaders meet at the G20 summit. Of course, you saw Bongani from earlier giving us what's happening for day 2. They're going to be navigating global uncertainties and also shaping the continent's economic and diplomatic future. All that and more coming up inside of Breakfast Extra here this morning. Once again, something I just told, I'd like to get back on. Black Friday is not a Black Friday in Nigeria.
It's really not.
It's a Black month. It's a Black November.
Black, something.
Because it's spread across the
It's supposed to be
entire
one day that's okay, don't worry, let's give you another grace because we like you, another grace.
We overdo it in Nigeria.
Black weeks.
Black week, yeah, exactly. Well, tell you what, let's take a break and let the conversations begin inside of Breakfast Extra. Welcome once again.
Welcome back. It's Breakfast Extra, and we begin this hour with our first big report. And this one is on a developing security concern in the northeast. Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum is again warning that the Lake Chad region remains one of Nigeria's weakest security points. He says insurgents continue to exploit the vast, unmanned Tumbes Island, where military presence is almost non-existent. According to the governor, without a full military offensive and sustained boots on the ground, both on land and along the waterways, the region will remain vulnerable, threatening communities and food security efforts across Borno and neighboring countries.
So before we begin the conversation, let's take you to Borno, where our correspondent Umaru Kirawa had been following the governor's renewed call for urgent action. Let's take a look at his package from during the week.
Securing the Lake Chad region, particularly its shores, remains a Herculean challenge and a major stumbling block for peace in the sub-region.
Experiencing a little relative peace as far as this fight against the insurgency is concerned, and suddenly the resurgence of these insurgents, particularly ambushing military command, and even injuring or even killing the commandant of this is a very, very unfortunate incident. The Nigerian government and the Nigerian military should have to re-strategize their tactics, because this is, I can say, a lapses in the tactical war front.
A major route for terrorists operating at the fringes of Nigeria's northeast region, Chad, Niger and Cameroon, Borno's governor, Professor Babagana Zulum, says serves as a major logistical route for emphasis given terrorist and enabling environment.
We do used to have air interdictions and others, but the total military operation that involved the naval, the air force and ground troop purposely intended to reach up the tumbos has never been done. We want you to deploy more drones. What will happen on the ground? Yes, we thank God, but we need more.
Nigeria's Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sunday Anike, during an operational tour of Air Force Air Commands in Maiduguri, Borno State, met with personnel to reinforce interagency collaboration and increase efforts to tackle insecurity.
We have also continued to expand our intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance efforts in the theater to enhance target identification, protect civilians, and I repeat, minimize collateral damage.
Borno State Governor Professor Zulum expressed worry at the lack of joint security operations in the Tumbus, Sambisa, and shores of the Lake Chad, saying that there is a need to target the hideouts of the terrorists. As Nigeria steps up the tempo of its attacks on terrorists and terrorist elements, citizens will be hoping that this can be an end to terrorism, one and for all. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
That was the report by our correspondent Umaru Kirawa. He joins us live now from Maiduguri with more on this developing situation. Umaru Kirawa, thank you very much for joining us. You are welcome. Superb package there. I was worried for your safety, but of course you are a professional now, aren't you? That's why the boss likes you best. But Umaru, in your report, we saw that the governor spoke about ungoverned spaces along the Tumbus. Could you please explain what this vacuum means? Exactly how are these spaces ungoverned?
I mean, Nigeria, it's facing a multidimensional security challenge, and this calls for a multidimensional approach towards targeting or addressing these security challenges. And most importantly, even the security forces are aware of some of the ungoverned spaces because of the large landmass of Nigeria. And of course, the vulnerability of the border is still a major cause of concern, particularly along the shores of the Lake Chad, which the governor is hammering on, saying there has been never a military operation in that regard. And most importantly, the situations can be analyzed in different aspects. First, with regard to the issue of the multinational joint task force, which is charged with the responsibility of ensuring the safety of the different borders and different parts of the Lake Chad, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, and Nigeria. Unfortunately, unfortunately, the situation of the multinational joint task force is a very serious issue of concern that requires a diplomatic approach to tackle, because everybody is aware of the situation in Niger and other parts of the region, particularly the Sahelian region, which gave birth to serious security situation in the Lake Chad, in Borno, and other parts of the African sub-region, which calls for a very serious efforts to ensure that the safety and security of citizens are ensured. And most importantly, leaders across the different parts of the Lake Chad really need to engage beyond words, to match words with action to ensure that the safety and security of the citizens across the different parts of the Lake Chad is ensured. We might be practicing different system of governance. Nigeria might be practicing democracy and Niger will be practicing, but yes, the issue of security should be primacy, should be of essence. It's the primacy of governance, whether it's an autocratic system, whether it is the democracy, whether it is kakistocracy, or whatever type of crazy that
Umaru,
a country is.
Umaru, I hate to break it, but we have very limited time, and I'm very curious about one particular thing. Now, you said that these spaces are ungoverned. I'm wondering exactly how come that is, because if you have the MJTF operating there, that means that they're there on duty. They must have been posted there. So how exactly is it ungoverned? That's one. On the other hand, the people who live there, what kind of activities do they engage in, and how does the dynamic of the terrorists or the bandits affect their daily lives? I'm just trying to get a sense of geography, commerce, and all from this environment that we're talking about here, because specifically you're saying it's ungoverned.
Yes. The situation is that the people engage in fishing and then farming, some irrigation farming, and unfortunately there are instances whereby some of these communities even pay tax to terrorists, and it's a well-known fact. And this is unfortunate because certain security situations are not meant to be made known to the public via the television. I mean, it will further expose the vulnerability, and it will further make the situation more problematic than a solution.
So it's very strange then, because if the multinational JTF are on ground, then that must mean that there's a joint effort by all the countries, Chad, Cameroon, and Nigeria, to actually oversee that area or police that area. But it's yet ungoverned. So that's the confusing bit for me.
That is the point I'm trying to make. I said some of the information are not meant for public consumption because it is at the detriment of the safety of the people. Because even the multinational joint task force, if we will discuss some of the fallout of the multinational joint task force, I mean, it's a very serious cause of concern. And that is why initially I said there is the need for leaders across different parts of the lake Chad to coalesce into a single force to ensure that the multinational joint task force is fully funded, is well catered for, and the troops in the multinational joint task force do what they ought to do, and the safety of the borders are ensured.
So it's very implicative when you say do what they're supposed to do. Have they been engaged in maybe activities that are not professional?
I mean, the governor, the other time the governor was complaining with regard to the funding of the multinational joint task force. I don't want you to force me to say things that will be detrimental to the safety and security of, but the fact is the funding of the multinational joint task force must be addressed. And of course, there are certain diplomatic issues, which I will not want to say it on television, that really the leaders across the different parts of the lecture, they know what I mean. They really need to coalesce into a single force and then address the security challenges, because the more we leave these borders porous and the more the issues of the multinational joint task force are not met, I mean, the more the security situation will continue to become vulnerable, because it's a route that give terrorists and other criminal elements route to meander through different parts of the Lake Chad, through the water, through the land, through different axes, which, I mean, the security, the leadership, because these issues boil down to leadership and leadership, to ensure that the multinational joint task force are supported, the multinational joint task force are enhanced, and security operations across the Lake Chad, the Tumbus, and the Sambisa forest are well done to ensure the safety and security of the people. And most importantly, the persuasive effort of the government, which they call the non-kinetic approach, will also be scaled up to ensure that terrorists are also encouraged to surrender, because as of now, we have over 300,000 terrorists that have surrendered, according to the Borno state governor. This raises a lot of concerns and serious arguments with regard to the issue of the security of this Lake Chad, and of course the vulnerability of the areas and the ungoverned spaces, which requires very serious attention. Now we are seeing the abduction of school children and closing down of schools, which invariably gives opportunity for those that are campaigning for Western education is forbidden. They are indirectly they are achieving what they are saying, and the government really need to step up efforts to match words with action to ensure the safety and security of the citizens, because that is the primacy of governance. Any government that fails or neglects to ensure the safety and security of the citizens, that government should, ab initio, should not be there. and others should be, other people should be in default to ensure the safety and safety, because that is the primacy of governance.
Okay.
And that is what the leaders have vowed and have pledged to ensure. And unfortunately, we are seeing some unfortunate happenings that really need to be addressed and nipped in the bud.
Right. So, Umaru, thank you for, the reporting. I would have asked a question, but again, maybe my question would not be for public consumption. And since you're on this report, I'm sure we'll, follow up with you and see how this unravel, because insecurity is something that is just, it's everywhere.
And Kirawa, I don't mind that you couldn't tell us definitively some of these details, because I understand how that affects your investigative information gathering and all. So I do understand, and of course it must be for the security of the people there.
And then we appreciate you for giving us the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kirawa.
Queen, and thank you, Mazino.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, before we have our other discussion, let's go on a quick break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. I guess you're watching Breakfast Extra for a Sunday edition here. My name is Mazino Appeal with Queen Celestine. Now, in our second big report today, we turn to Edo State, where a major security operation has resulted in the arrest of 31 people suspected of cultism. The raids follow a violent clash between rival cult groups in Uromi, leaving one person hospitalized and raising fresh questions about the persistence of cult violence in Nigeria. Now, the operation, codenamed Out Kidnapping and Cultism, was led by Edo's Special Security Squad with support from the police, vigilantes, and even the Nigerian army. Now, authorities say they recovered battle axes, charms, cult insignia, and other dangerous material.
And of course, to help us unpack this situation and what it means for security, youth crime, and public trust, we have our guest, Kirawa Obaseki. He's a public affairs analyst. But first, here is a field report from our correspondent, Amenze Bazuaye, who was in Uromi. Let's have a look.
A joint force of police officers, local vigilantes and soldiers swept through streets and compounds in a targeted operation. Their mission, to track down individuals linked to a deadly confrontation between rival cult groups days earlier. By the end of the raid, 31 suspects were in custody. Security sources say the clash on 13th November left one victim critically injured and heightened tensions in communities already grappling with rising cult-related violence. Acting on fresh intelligence, the Special Security Squad moved before dawn, storming several hideouts across Uromi. Items recovered include battle axes, cult insignia, charms, drugs, and what operatives described as materials used in previous attacks. Squad coordinator Idemudia Noah explained that the confrontation that triggered the raid stemmed from a dispute over a fraudulent financial transaction, a conflict that escalated into open violence.
Stay away from crime. Edo is no longer a safe place for any criminal activity. If you know that you cannot live peacefully with us here, I've advised before, please kindly leave us in peace. Because at the end of the day, we would apprehend you. The CSO to the governor and the principal security officer, they are hell-bent, working in conjunction with the governor, because they have said no to crime.
Authorities say the suspects have been transferred to the police area command in Uromi for profiling and interrogation. But perhaps most troubling for officials was the discovery of underage individuals involved in the criminal activities. The squad warns that parents may now face legal consequences if minors in their care continue to engage in cultism or organized crime. One suspect denied any links to a cult group, despite the recovery of a battle axe from his apartment, admitting only to involvement in internet fraud.
I'm not a cultist. I just do Yahoo. I have not really defrauded, I think about 2. I think about 2.
I started this business this year. I have not collected anyone. I have not defrauded anyone. We just live together here.
Meanwhile, the state government has issued a 7-day ultimatum to fleeing suspects to surrender or face intensified security action. A show of force later followed across parts of Edo Central, signaling the administration's determination to clamp down on cultism and rising youth crime. In Edo, for News Central, Amenze, Bazuaye.
Well, as we all saw it, that was the video from our correspondent, Amenze Bazuaye. But then we have Mr. Obaseki joining us all the way from Detroit to talk about, this cultism in Edo State. Good morning, sir. We see that, the cultism in Edo is not new at all, but why does it persist, especially in Uromi? It feels like it's a failure of law enforcement or local government or something more systematic. What's your take on it?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me. I just returned from Nigeria, I think a week ago. We held this annual football program for the youth. You see, the youth, they've been neglected. It was an emotional period for me because you can see everything in the youth faces, that they have been neglected, they've not been engaged. When I was going to school, we had all different kinds of sport programs. We were all engaged. And that is no longer there now. The kids, they can do whatever they want. And it's been the failure of the government, not necessarily the state government, the whole system in general.
Well, sir, would like to know how this crackdown affects public perception of insecurity in Edo State. Like we mentioned before, it's not the first time. We've had some of these crackdown many times. If I'm not mistaken, the state PRO often comes out to tell and give certain visuals about what's happening there. So do you think it will resort or restore confidence in the government of Edo State by the citizens or from the citizens?
Well, these are just the symptoms. It's not abating anytime soon because, like I said, the whole system is broken, and you must fix the system in order for you to be able to capture the youth. It's been years of neglect, and I don't think this is unique to Uromi. It can happen in Benue or Auchi or Aganibode, The problem of cultism is not unique to Nigeria. There are cultism in the US. You see, the system kind of engages you. Looking at all the people arrested, these are kids in their early 20s.
Mr. Obaseki, is there a traditional element to the cultism in Edo State? I think maybe we should address that. We know that it's a state that is well steeped in traditional ways of doing things. Could this also be a factor? Is it a good thing or a bad thing that
it could be?
Okay.
Yes, it could be, but you can't stop cultism completely. You have to engage them and be one step ahead. That is what is being done even in advanced countries. The same thing. When we were growing up, there were some gangs here and gangs there, but they never deteriorated to this level that we are seeing. That's what I'm saying. That if the system is broken, you have to fix the system and start arresting the youth at their early stage. As I told you, we just finished this soccer program at Ogbe Stadium and UBTH. I saw the yearning in the faces of the kids because it's like we came to their rescue. Imagine for those few kids, there are still a lot more out there. And once they are not engaged, when they get to the age of those suspects you just arrested, then they find something for themselves, and you saw them with guns, matches, and everything. And if you do not pay early, you will pay later. Mm-hmm. That's what we are saying.
Right.
And it's not going to abate anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Mr. Obaseki, you've said not once, not twice about engaging them. Now, if we're talking about youth unemployment or youth in general, we realize that there's a lot of people not so interested in either politics or governance and all. Everybody's looking for, according to them, allegedly looking for fast money and everything. So when you say engage, what do you think the government needs to do, and how do you think they can rehabilitate these young people that have been allegedly arrested for, internet fraud and cultism?
Well, again, when I was growing up, we had all this Afuze complex, Ita house boss. Every moment of our life was engaged. So, but now you have this kids. There's nothing. Basically nothing, and you do not engage the kids, and by the time they are that age, they start committing crime, then you want to arrest. It's too late.
Well, you said that this was a symptom of what exactly? If it's a symptom, then it's not the fault of the what. It's not the fault of the kids or the youth. There must be something else, and if unemployment could be brought in here as one of those factors, do you think that the state has more to do when it comes to getting jobs for these young people? You talked about engaging them into house sports and all of this, but at the end of the day, it doesn't make them any money. So what about putting money in their pocket by providing jobs? Where has the state failed in that? Or I should ask, has the state failed in that aspect?
Well, at this junction, what the state should be doing is to start enacting programs that is going to engage them, preach to them, address them, make them understand that they own the future. They own the future. Say, for example, like a National Youth Program? And is it NYSC?
NYSC, yes.
National, exactly. Okay, for example, if you can, I even discussed this with Ogbemudia. He said he actually applied it during the, although that was a military era. All this, they can construct, they can repair roads. You can buy them tractors, engage them, try to make them feel ownership of Edo or Nigeria as a whole. But if you are not engaging them, then this is what you see. This is what you see. And if you teach them work programs, how to repair the roads, and things that will improve the society.
Right.
They do that here in the U.S. Yeah, they do that here in the U.S. They engage them. But I don't see such programs in Nigeria or Edo State, per se.
Right. So, Mr. Obaseki, my final question for you is, what would be your advice to the youth in Edo State? I'm sure that, most of them will be watching. What would you say to them as to how to figure out their life without going south? How do they have hope? How do they keep pushing through when, they complain about unemployment, infrastructure, basic need? It's a struggle. Like you said, back then you had inter-house put, you had things. The things you had a few years ago are not available now. We just have internet where, they can go into the internet and see their mates, prospering and, flashy lifestyle. And that might be one of the reasons that, they want to get there fast. So what would be your advice to the youth in Edo State to say, see, there's greater good in doing good and, not going south and being a cultist? So what would you say to them?
Well, all you can do is to preach to them, but then again, you have to have programs, you have to have something that they can hold on to. If you don't, then it's too late. It's too late. As I said, you see so many roads in Benin, they are all bad. Work program. Kids, I believe they will grab onto this work program. If you are paying them, say, 100,000 naira per month, just to construct the roads instead of awarding billions and billions of naira contract to politicians, and then you will, at least you have something you can, something substantial you can hold on to. That is the work program. Or to go and build markets in the rural areas. These were some of my recommendations. And Ubemudia of blessed memory, adopted them. When we held a summit, Boston summit, he came. Those kind of a program, you have to reintroduce them. If you don't, this is going to deteriorate. Next year will be worse than this year. The other year is going to be worse than the other year too. And then let me touch a little bit on this insecurity in the country too. You see, Nigeria made the mistake 1979. I wish Chief Enauro was still alive to push the program that I myself am trying to push now. That is to have a good system, because Nigeria system is a Soviet Politburo style government. Period. It has nothing to do with the U.S. system kind of government, because where everything is coming from the federal. I was listening to the governor of Zamfara. Zamfara governor said they know all the bandits, they know all the terrorists, they know them, they live with them. But then the reporter asked him, why are you not taking care of the bandits? He said, no, he doesn't have the tool. Everything has to come from Abuja. That is the Soviet Politburo style system that I'm talking about. Here in the US, there are state guards. They take care of their state. That's all. Why don't you provide the same system? Instead of calling it US style federal system, just call it a Soviet Politburo communist style government. That is what Nigeria is practicing. That is what we all agree. When we developed this program, Chief Enauro was sitting right where I'm sitting now. Professor Moore, he was sitting here. They should have been pushing this kind of program. Nigeria is going nowhere yet. I was expecting President Tinubu to also push this program, because he was a part of this program. But now he's just the president, he's sitting down, and it's like a continuation of what was wrong with Nigeria. And so, like, if you ask me, am I hopeful? No, I'm not, until you make the necessary changes, if you continue to stick with the structure you have, you continue to get what you have.
Right. Well, Mr. Obaseki, thank you so much for joining us. We don't want to disturb you, but thank you for joining us and, giving us your insight on how, the youth in Edo State can do better and not be a cultist. We appreciate you, and happy International Men's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my brother, I forgot your name again. Thank you.
It's Mazino. It's Mazino. I'm just from the Delta under you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day, sir.
Yes, indeed.
Bye.
Bye.
And thanks for reminding us that it was International Men's Day on Wednesday.
Happy International Men's Day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What's your name?
I see what you did.
Mazina.
But it was a fantastic one, because on Wednesday I got a couple of messages from the beautiful women here. A couple of beautiful women here at News Central appreciating men. So we thought to ourselves, why don't we take it a step further and appreciate all the men here at News Central, because you guys do so much. And I think from a man supporting another man, we need to give you your flowers now. All right. So we say thank you and congratulations, because our weekend warrior today is dedicated to you all, the group of special people, on this fine day as we celebrate Men's Day, albeit that it's a few days late since Wednesday. From Breakfast Extra, we would like to show our appreciation to the fine men of News Central. Unfortunately, we may have to limit the list to those who make it up on air, but nevertheless, we do respect and appreciate the many other people who make up the soul of this fine establishment. Thus, today, we pause to honor the remarkable men whose work, courage, and heart power the engine of News Central. The men who go to the front lines, hold the newsroom together, steady the desks, carry the emotional weight of difficult stories, and still show up every single day with commitment that cannot be faked. We say thank you to our fearless reporters whose dedication has redefined bravery. I would like Queen to start with the names. Please go ahead.
Well, we have Omoni Agbalani, the quiet master trainer who shapes the new talents of the reporting desk with patience and precision. We have Victor Badike with his unforgettable voice and disarming charm, finding humor even in the darkest places. And of course, we have Bernard Akede, the steady commander of the reporting desk, who was in Kwara yesterday, guarding the team with calm leadership. And Marshal Onoye, whose investigative reporting pushed News Central onto the global radar. We don't forget Israel Eferobo, who crosses from production to reporting, brought with, warmth and people first instant. I'm sure you remember him from the fire in Balogun Market. And, we say thank you to everybody, from Cyril to Anthony to Ayo, to everybody, to Mazina.
We say thank you to the men who hold the newsroom, especially the spirit of the newsroom, Leko Onabanjo, news anchor, every news anchor's best friend, by the way, and one you can trust at any hour, holding every crisis with grace. Thank you very much. In fact, somebody give that man a raise. I want to say thank you to Mono Balagwego, our very own Motomoto, big-hearted and talented in ways we've only just begun to uncover. We only just discovered that he can sing. Austin Azu, the Delta navigator, whose preferred means of transport is the canoe, and whose charm actually unlocks communities like magic. That's his talent. Jamil Mabai, let's not forget you, the northern voice of reason, rich with insights and experience, carrying the weight of his region's stories with dignity. And Sagir Ibrahim, unmatched in extemporaneous reporting. Now, if the gates of hell open, Sagir, he'd actually be there reporting live with perfect grammar, by the way. And we saw him from this morning, Umaru Kirawa, who runs the Northern Zone with consistency, discipline, and a level of trust that makes him the boss's favorite. For good reason, of course. What can I say?
Of course, we have Joshua Imarai, young, hungry, dependable, proving his worth in every assignment. We greet you especially, Dakbo Adeboyega.
I greet him specially because that's how he greets everybody. We greet you specially.
The spark plug of political conversation, turning every evening into a theater of insight, the gaslight interviewer. In entertainment, we say thank you, Sam Dandy, stylish, expressive, uniquely himself, and the ever suave Edewa, delivering stories with the ease of a natural star. The evenings come alive with Udoka's corny jokes, questionable playlist, and forgettable banter.
Unforgettable, actually.
While mornings are reserved for Johansson, as he sets a standard of polish that only Benga Agborowa dares to challenge, straddling the line between model and anchor with impressive ease.
Fantastic. We say thank you to the sports desk. Sports is powered by Favor Paparazzi Itwa, full of strength and energy. And of course, there's Okwe/Toby, whom I can never tell apart. They're the pit crew who turn stories around. They churn stories out like as if they're manufacturing these moments themselves. To the many men behind the scene, the editors, the camera operators, the graphic artists, the technical crew, the digital team, we also appreciate you. We see you, and the world feels your impact here as we churn out content every single day here on News Central.
And finally, to our very own Mr. Kayode Akintemi, the boss who say all these talents, gathered them, shaped them, keeps them together, bring them from food to TV, creating the magic the world now knows as News Central. Sir, we honor you too, and yes, I hope this is sweet enough to get me a raise. Yay! And of course, happy birthday to Chinwete, who's also one of our
anchors.
anchors.
Is true. Today is his birthday. He only just signed off the news at 6 or 7 a.m.
Yes,
just
7 a.m.
the 6 o'clock bulletin.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you, Chinwete. And congratulations to all the men who make everything work here. There's
you guys are amazing.
We didn't mention Annie, King Annie, who's the director for today. Thank you very much. And F. Young Taliban, who's also in the PCR right now.
And Collins, we miss you. Come back.
Collins, yeah. Yeah, Maeve could do with some help now.
And Mr. Louis.
And Mr. Louis, director of news.
See, if we keep mentioning names, we're not going to
We'll
go.
stop.
So let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue the conversation. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. It's the second hour here for Breakfast Extra, Sunday edition, Mazino Appeal, and of course, Queen Celestine. And we are jetting off to South Africa once again, where we have our News Central correspondent, Bongani Sisiba, and of course, Israel Ifirubo, who will be bringing us details and updates on what's happening at the G20. Israel, good to see you this morning. We just finished a tribute to the men of News Central, where we showed appreciation for all of you, especially all of you at the reporting desk, and we mentioned your name. So it's good to see you live on the air with us again. Thank you very much, Israel. Let's talk G20. What's been happening? It's the second day now. We saw the declaration from yesterday. We saw Argentina abstain. What has been happening? What do we need to know coming in from South Africa at the G20 summit?
Great. So, Zeno, good morning to you, and Celestine, good morning to you as well. And thank you for giving my flowers this morning. Thank you. Okay, so a lot happened yesterday, and I did say during all our reportage yesterday that we will try to get our hands on the declarations that were, agreed upon by members of the G20 yesterday. And luckily for us, we have been able to lay our hands on that. So I'll just quickly go right now and read out some of the sections. It's a 30-page document, so I cannot possibly have gone through everything right now, but let me just quickly give you some key pointers from this particular declaration that was adopted yesterday by members of the G20. The item number 30 on this particular declaration is talking about, and I quote, "We reaffirm the voluntary principles for just and inclusive energy transitions and recall the Rio de Janeiro's leaders' declaration on our commitment to promote clean, sustainable, just, affordable, and inclusive energy transitions." Another key point worthy of note here, just hang on there, let me quickly get to it. Like I said, it's a 30-page document. Can I even get to it? Okay, I'm going to try and get to it in a moment. But then again, today is a big day, and it is the final day of this summit. There will be much more. There will be one last session here, and I will tell you what that session is about in a moment. So, speaking about the declarations right now, item number 3 on the declaration says, "We'll meet against the backdrop of rising geopolitical and geo-economic competition and instability." And it went on to talk about the fact that we further reaffirm that in line with the UN Charter, all states must refrain from the threats or use of force to seek territorial acquisitions against territorial integrity and sovereignty or political independence of any state, and that states should develop friendly relations among nations, including by promoting and encouraging aspects for human rights and for fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion. Something about the DRC here as the DRC and of course Sudan. They say item 7 here on the declarations, "We concur that guarded by the purposes and principles of the UN Charter in its entirety, we will work for just, comprehensive and lasting peace in the Sudan, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the occupied the occupied Palestinian territory, Ukraine, as well as any other conflicts and wars around the globe. With peace, only with peace will we achieve sustainability and prosperity. As you know, I know we don't have lots of time, but you asked me a question earlier on before we came on the air. Why did Argentina abstain from this particular G20 summit? Indeed, we gathered also that they are in alignment with the United States of America, who also abstained, and it's also a thing of ideology here, and that's why they are not here. So today is the final session. They will be good. It's always been a closed session, the media not allowed, but we will try and see if we can get what they will be looking at, something really critical here. It's on a fair and a just future for raw critical minerals, which is very important, decent work and artificial intelligence, and lastly, the adoption of the Johannesburg Summit Outcome Document. That is the key thing that will be happening here today. But generally speaking, the summit has been a success. Basically, it was supposed, rather, there were tensions during it, before it, but it seems like all of that has been doused by the overwhelming support and cooperation that South Africa got in the hosting of this G20 summit here at Nasdaq Johannesburg, you know.
Well, Ify, thank you very much. Very interesting that you mentioned the bit about Argentina. 122-point declaration issued, and of course, Cyril Ramaphosa said that there was overwhelming support, except for Argentina. And when you talked about the points, the bits about the declaration that was adopted here, it was mostly about renewable energy, climate change, debt relief, and of course, debt release for poor nations and minerals. Especially when it comes to the topic of minerals and sovereignty, America seems to be in that little mud there when it comes to African countries. We have the situation with Nigeria when it comes to sovereignty. We also have talks about minerals being part of that conversation. So one could see why perhaps maybe they're not present at the G20, but these are just speculative. But for Argentina to not want to align with that declaration, it seems rather obvious after Milei just got re-elected and all. But the main question is, with America's absence, what further influence do we see happening with their absence? Are they going to influence any other decisions at the G20, do you think?
Okay, so you know, I didn't quite get everything you just said, but going forward from here, we did ask the Department of Foreign Relations here in South Africa if there will be any sort of challenge from the declarations that have been adopted here at the G20 summit in the absence of the USA. And it is say that they don't expect anything of such, because all the nations here, they signed and they adopted this particular declaration. So they do not foresee any sort of issues coming out of this, because it's something that is binding on all the nations that have supported this course, this declaration at the G20 summit here in Johannesburg. You know,
Israel, if you're about, thank you very much. We'll continue to come to you hourly for more updates at the G20. Thank you indeed.
Thank you.
Now let's go on a short break. We've got another big story coming your way and a very interesting conversation to go with it. Stay with us.
Now let's move to Benue State. It's once again in the spotlight, and this time not because of the long-running farmer header crisis. A few new wave of violent crime is sweeping across communities in Makadi and beyond, from motorcycle snatching to armed robberies, mob justice, and even arson. In one shocking case last week, 2 young men were lynched by a mob after being accused of belonging to a syndicate responsible for stealing over 50 motorcycles, household appliances, and even carrying firearms. Their hideout was burnt down by angry residents, and the community says they had operated undetected for months.
But this, well, it's not just about criminal gangs. Residents are also raising the alarm over police harassment and heavy-handedness. Our own correspondent, Leah Anyo, experienced this firsthand while covering the incident. Her phone was seized and she was also assaulted by an officer at the scene. Well, so this morning we're asking what exactly is happening in Benue State. Why is community trust eroding on all sides, and how safe are residents? So joining us are Dr. Joseph Har, the Special Advisor to the Benue State Governor on Internal Security, and our correspondent, Leah Suwese Anyo. Gentlemen and lady, you are welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome, Dr. Har and Leah. Dr. Har, from your office standpoint, what exactly is fueling this sudden spike in violent crime in Maiduguri, especially, the motorcycle snatching and armed attacks? Makodi, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, good morning. You didn't introduce yourself, so I may not address you as per your names. But good morning, and it's good to have me here. Issues of criminality are not location targeted. So when you say there's increase of criminality in Makodi, it's too myopic to say. Normally we have what is called the amber month for September, especially November and December. Always witness increase in criminality. So it's not about Benue State being in the news for motorcycle snatches, but it's an issue of criminality increase, which has to do with the U-tide. These things come with the U-tide, so it's not a peculiar thing about Benue State.
Dr. Har, thank you very much. I'm going to come back to you on that, on the peculiarity of the situation in Benue State regarding criminality. But let's first of all take Suwese's experience. Suwese, we hear that you were caught in the middle of all of this criminality. If you can give us a recount of exactly what happened so we can get a very good idea, a first-hand experience from the situation.
Okay, Mazino, thank you very much. So it was quite a very tense situation that very day, Thursday last week, this week, Thursday. So it was very horrifying because it started like a joke where a few young men gathered at the residence while I was returning from work. And I asked questions. I said, what is going on here? They said nothing. So I went back into my apartment. And then a few hours later, I started hearing a lot of noise outside. And I said, what is going on? So I came outside the gate and then I looked around and I saw that there were so many people. They were numbering up to 30, 40 of them gathered in front of the gates before my house. And they were trying to gain access into the apartment. So I rushed there and tried to find out what was going on. So I brought out my phone and tried to record. And immediately the young men gathered me and they were like, we are going to lynch you here and there's nothing you can do about it. And before I knew what was happening, words traveled around that I was trying to record, to report to the police or whatever they felt I was trying to do to them. So they said they were going to lynch me and they were already gathering me in large numbers and I was getting scared. And then somebody that seemed to have recognized me among the mob said, no, this lady is a journalist. She just moved into this apartment not long ago. So just spare her. She doesn't mean any harm. So he took me away from the mob and then he said, find your way home. Or in fact, stay away from him. Go away from here. So I managed to escape that situation that Thursday night. And then it continued while the mob eventually caught up with a young man inside the house. He ran off, jumped through the fence with his cousin who was in the room with him. Eventually they caught up with them. They lynched them on the spot. And the mob returned to the apartment again as they're making a lot of trouble. They wanted to burn it down. The police managed to put the situation under control that night because the mob was out of control that night and the police they couldn't even do much because the mob was out of control. So by the following day, the tension continued. So I was trying to cover the situation to see what I could get from it. And then the police officer approached me and was like, where are you going? I said, sir, I'm trying to cover the situation. And away from that, this is my location. So I'm heading home. And he said, why are you going home? Go back. And then he he pounced on me, began to slap me, give me so multiple slaps. And I was like, sir, what have I done? I'm just innocent. I'm not even part of the mob. He said, I don't care. And whatever I do to you here, nothing will happen to me. So just find your way out of here. And then he seized my phone and said, I should delete everything I've taken from here and get out of here. So I began to cry because I was so shocked that was happening to me, and I was traumatized, given the incidents of the previous night, and then waking up the following morning, confronted by the mob the previous night, confronted by the police the following morning. So it was like back-to-back experiences, and it was so traumatizing for me. But thankfully, I was able to get away from the situation before it eventually escalated and the building was brought down completely and all the items in the apartments were looted.
So SA, just to confirm, are you saying that your property was also burned?
Luckily enough, the SA, who is also on the show here with us right now, he was very proactive when he was reached out to by the MD, and he quickly rushed to the situation, and it was immediately arrested. He came with the fire service, and they were able to put out the fire in good time, and they were also able to put away the mob. Otherwise, our house would have been burnt down as I speak to you, because it was already getting into our apartment before the fire service arrived. So they were able to curtail the fire, they were able to put out the fire, and our house was safe. But then we're not completely safe from the mob, who were bent on looting everything they found around, because they also accused us of being in the know of the criminal activities of the gang. And we tried to tell them we don't know anything about these people, but they said we're part of it. So they were going to also deal with us because we're supporting them. We're even cooking for them from what they said. We're helping them to, feed so that they can carry out criminal activities. So they wanted to get to our place, but then the security were able to stop them. So as it is now, there is a lot of calm, but then they are coming around every now and then and still trying to see what they can get from that scene.
Well, so I say thank you very much. It must have been very traumatic. Apologies for what you went through, especially in the line of duty. So do take heart. I'm sure that you'd be fine. Now, Dr. Har, let's come back to you and talk about the unique situation here. I know that you've said that the Ember Months brings increased criminality. However, it seems to be the norm in places like Benue. For instance, this particular instance here, where we have them actually saying that they want to lynch culprits. First off, there is the lynch mob mentality. There's the fact that even after they were able to get their hands on these people, they returned to burn down people's apartments. There is also the fact that they also carried out criminalities by looting properties, and that there is no trust in the authorities, in this case, the police, as we have just heard from Suese, who told about the fact that she was harassed by the authority itself. So there's a lot going on in this instance, and across Benue, it seems to be the same. So what do you have to say about this, sir?
Well, my brother, I want to make some observations and some corrections here. One of the things that happens in Nigeria these days, because of the advent of handsets, is that as soon as an incident happens, everybody around becomes a journalist. And so sometimes I'm not speaking for the police, and sometimes the people come in who are not actually journalists in some disguise to also be part of that same loot they're talking about here. So I'm not speaking for the police, but I think nobody, not the IG, not the Commissioner of Police of Benue State that I know, we support a policeman manhandling somebody. These are SSS that operatives do while on duty. That's the first thing I want to put here. Secondly, I want to also state here that no government, we agree or authorize jungle justice. And when you say particularly Benue State, I beg to disagree with you again. It is not Benue State alone that you have issues of jungle justice. It is condemnable, but it's not a peculiar thing with Benue State. People have been lynched in River State, in Port Harcourt, where I came from. People have been lynched in Port Harcourt. People have been lynched even in Abuja. So it's not a peculiar thing about Benue State, but it's a condemnable issue. Now, again, I'm not speaking for the police, but what happened the night that this thing took place was that the police E-Division came in promptly and evacuated the motorcycles that were discovered in that compound, the machines that were used as a factory. They bring machines, they snatch motorcycles and bring in there and spray them, and all the spray machines and all of that, and took them to the station. So if they say people looted, at that point it was not looting. They carried the thing to the police station. Now, the next day when the fire incident, the burning down of the resident took place, again I want to correct here that burning houses were not burnt. The particular building, one building, where these guys with giant dogs and where they operate this criminality was the one that was set ablaze. And just as Leah said, when the CEO called me that his staff is trapped down in the environment, I went there myself. As she said, it's true, it's correct. And to avoid the fire escalating to the next building, which is the estate that Leah lives, we had to bring in the fire service to put out the fire. So it's not a peculiar thing about Benue State. It's criminality, and criminality is not celebrated. It shouldn't be celebrated. If, like when I went there, I saw her with News Central T-shirts. I'm not sure the policeman would have handled her if he saw that. But apart from even having the symbol of News Central, the policeman ought not to have harassed anybody in the first place. But again, she's saying that there was a mob action that the police needed to contend with. And in contending with crises of this nature, so many things can take place. So it's not just one of the hazards. And I want to sincerely sympathize with my little sister here, my daughter. I take it as one of the blisters of labor.
Dr. Hab, pardon me to interject real quick. You mentioned that, the day you saw Leah, or when you went to look for Leah before, after the CEO of News Central called you, she was wearing the T-shirt. So were you able to talk to the officer? So because she wasn't wearing her T-shirt, her News Central uniform, did that give him the right to slap her, knowing fully well the people in the area already mentioned that she was a journalist, sir?
Well, you repeated the same thing I said. I said what you just said now. Well, as at the time she was manhandled was the previous day, if I'm right, Leah, where I was not there.
No, sir. No, sir. There were two incidents that happened. The previous Thursday night, it was the mob that were angry that I was covering the event, and then the following morning, which was Friday, it was the police officer that did that, sir. So there were two incidents of manhandling, assault.
Yeah, I answered this. I said no Inspector General of Police, not police in Makurdi, in the Benue State that I know, we approve the manhandling of someone, whether in line of duty or not. Okay. You understand? So I'm as I said, I'm not speaking for the police. But when you have a crisis of this nature, where over 200 youth came into this environment, protesting to pull down the building, containing this crisis. The method of containing this crisis, that is what is called the voluntary principle for security and human rights. The officer ought to have activated this principle. The principle says you should do your security jobs while respecting the rights of human beings. I am not supporting what he did. He wasn't correct. I wasn't there. If I were there, I would have stopped him. And if the CP that I know, Emenari, if he knows about this, he will actually take a caution on this.
Right. Okay. So, Dr. Har and Leah, please don't go anywhere. We need to go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Please don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
Welcome back. You've bumped into conversations regarding insecurity in Benue State, where we have Dr. Joseph Har and, of course, New Central correspondent Leah Suwese Anyo, who have joined us. Now, we're talking about instances from Benue State, Makurdi to be precise, only just the past 1 week.
Yeah.
We also talked about the fact that there seems to be very reduced trust in authorities. Dr. Har and Leah, I hope you guys are still with us. Thank you very much for staying. We've got more questions for you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Har, for staying with us, and Leah for the reporting. Leah mentioned that, Dr. Har came quickly to rescue by bringing, the firefighters. So now, Dr. Har, I wanted to just ask you that, the mob killing of the 2 alleged bike snatchers last week, it shows deep frustration and a breakdown of trust, in security agencies. How do I put this? What does this tell you about, public confidence in law enforcement in Benue State? Dr. Ha?
Yeah, okay. So once again, thank you so much. When we talk about people losing trust in law enforcement in Benue State, I again want to state without missing words that in a society where you have more than one person, you should expect everyone comfortable or satisfied with what someone is doing. But when you look at the general holistic view of what these people do, I give them kudos. I give them kudos because the government of the day, when we came on board, we inherited 13 local governments that are on the red line. I can mention the government to mention them. And then it is not the market woman that fought this to go down. It's the same security agencies that fought this thing, brought it down first of all to 11 local governments. It went down to 7 local governments. It went down to 3. It went up to 6, and it went back again. And so, who did this job that today we see people, a place that they used to have bloodbath, killing hundreds of people? The last that happened in that magnitude was the Yerwata attack. And after the Yerwata attack, the president visited, and the statements from the governor and the paramount ruler, the king of the tea nation, gave rise to why the president ordered for most security agencies to be deployed in Benue State. And they did, actually. And if we want insecurity to be eradicated, if that is what we are looking for, then it means Satan must be killed. Because insecurity is the activity of Satan the devil. So it's to mitigate, to keep pushing, to keep striving hard to see that these things go down to a reasonable level.
All right.
And so people that are on the line, some are dying, some lose their limbs and all of that. If we try to say they're not doing anything, we're doing a disservice to them. So I can tell you that the synergy that happens in Benue State, as an erudite security professional, I can confirm to you that the security security agencies in Benue State are doing their very best.
Well, that's very encouraging to hear, sir. Very, very, very encouraging. But beyond the arrests that have been made, what else is the state doing strategically, security-wise, to restore trust in the authorities and also to prevent people from these occasions of jungle justice?
Okay, so one of the things that this government brought on board is the issue of security education and awareness. I was just talking to Leah. This incident in that compound would have been reported if Leah and the rest of them in that compound had known what to do. Because constantly there's a generator on in that compound. And then there's a fabrication. Fabrication goes on in that place. and then there are heavy dogs in that place. This alone is a flag. It's a pointer that someone should have raised a flag. Sometimes we are so committed to things we do that we forget the aspect of trying to know our neighbors. So know your neighbor is a security strategy. If the neighbors had taken a little time to observe the activities of that place, bikes come in there and don't go out. Bikes go in there, they're red, they go out blue. And constantly there is generator on and a machine, a fabrication going on there. It's enough to go and give information that my neighbor, there's something going around this camp. I don't know what they're doing here. Please come and check. Let's know what they're doing here. If we had knowledge of what to do in neighborhood security, they would have discovered those guns on time. You see, so look at the issue of my involvement. Because the CEO called me immediately. Supposing he didn't have my number. Now, do we even have numbers of law enforcement agencies that are near to us? We don't have these things. So we have resident security, we have street security, we have security of worship centers, we have security of schools, and all of that. Elsewhere, where these things are, they're prone to these vices, people are taught what to do. Even rehearsals are made until it becomes a way of life. In the event that this thing happens, the level of calamity will not be as devastated as if nobody had taught anything. So we are teaching people on what to do, what to look out for, and things like that. When there's an explosion, just bring a hand said, oh, I'm live and direct here in Yanya, a suicide bomber. Every bomb blast comes with a twin sister. As one has blasted, there's a next one that will come up. As you are doing your, I'm here live and direct, boom, and you are gone. So teach people what to do in case of arm attack. Teach people what to do in case of emergency. Teach people what to do in case of intelligent gathering. Last week, I was in Zone C, teaching all the traditional rulers in Zone C. What was I teaching them? How to police their communities. Have database of every community. Everyone, the sex, the age, the occupation, the GSM, the NIN, the address of everyone in the community. That alone reduces the crime by 60%. Because once you know everyone in the environment, people are careful. So what we need to do, and we are doing in Benue State, is with security education. Let me give another example that happened in Kirawa local government. The President General of the Kuna people, Kuna is a local government called Vanika. The President General was kidnapped on the 30th of December last year. And I moved into action immediately. I chased those kidnappers and got to Adipo. What did I do? I hired 12 cyclists and paid them money. Go around and tell food vendors, if you see anyone buying food in large quantity, cooked food in large quantity or bread in large quantity, please let us know. That was security education. Lo and behold, 2 hours after I did this, a young man could buy cooked rice, 5,000 cooked rice. And the seller said, please, let me go and find the takeaway plates. She called us. We grabbed the guy and went straight, he took us straight to the place. And the police and the civil protection guard neutralized these guys and rescued this man on hot.
Wow.
That is the effect of security education and awareness.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. So it's not about, and another bad thing that is happening is this issue of politics. We politicize everything. Everything that comes up, we take it into politics. Even when they're talking things that are beneficial to the state. Now, you destroy a state and you want investors to come. How will investors come to the state that you are giving so much negative reports against them? Things that never happened, you say they happened.
All right then, Dr. Ba.
Wow. Well, Dr. Hart, thank you. Thank you so much for bringing so much clarity to this, troubling development happening in Benue State. We'll continue to follow up these stories and push for accountability on all sides. And Leah, we're so sorry that you had to go through that. And we appreciate you for your resilience and your reporting. And, do stay safe. We appreciate both of you for coming on and giving us an insight to this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Leah.
Let me just give advice to Leah and maybe to News Central.
Okay.
You see, the presence of mechanics makes it difficult to identify who is a madman. Because of this crazy issue of auxiliary journalists, maybe need to have a reportage. We used to know people reporting for television, they used to have microphones or something, making them look different from other reporters. So that you don't just carry handsets, so that you don't expose your people to this kind of risk.
Okay.
I sincerely, as Matthias with her, and if I know the policeman, I'll ask him to come and apologize to Leah.
Okay.
But on behalf of the policeman, Leah, I'm sorry that you had to go through all of that. It's the tension of a crisis situation. It's not acceptable. The voluntary principle for security and human rights doesn't allow this. She would have applied that without harming you, especially as a lady. They wouldn't have done that to you. So even without the policeman, I want to sincerely apologize to you for the manhandle. We are going for the best. Let's not look at semantics and all those things that people are talking about.
All right.
Thank you
Dr.
so much.
Har, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Leah, like he said, we also sympathize with you. Leah, I don't know if you were listening from earlier. We actually gave our weekend position out to all the men here at News Central. While I'm not taking that away from them, I will add you into that group because you indeed have shown such courage that we do need to, and you do deserve a spot as one of the weekend warriors for this weekend. Thank you very much, Leah.
Well done, Leah.
And do take heart and continue being courageous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Har.
And they're known for that, bravery.
Yes, indeed. Especially Leah. Thank you. Now let's take a short break. We've got more conversation. It's still the second hour here for our Breakfast Extra. There's more to come. Welcome back. It's just before the end of the second hour. Our big story this time, well, it focuses on the nationwide doctor strike, now dragging into its third week. The federal government insists it has met 19 out of 20 demands presented by the striking doctors, urging them to return to work. But the doctors' unions say otherwise, insisting that implementation, not promises, is the real issue. With hospitals overstretched and patients stranded, the back and forth continues while Nigerians bear the brunt of the stalemate.
And of course, to help us unpack the legal, health, and ethical dimensions of the strike, we're joined by Gabriel Udrafi, legal practitioner, and Olawale Ogunlana, public health content creator and health awareness champion. Whoop.
Gentlemen, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Mr. Udrafi, and of course, Mr. Ogunlana, Dr. Ogunlana here.
Yes.
I didn't know you were a content creator, but let's skip that part. Let's talk about real, serious implications here from the doctor strike. Inside of this conversation, I'm also going to mention cases of the Hippocratic Oath, and I think that's why we have Mr. Gabriel Udrafi joining us here. Let's start. First of all, Dr. Ogunlana, what are these agenda that the doctors seem to be fighting with the government still? We hear that 19 of these have been granted by the government, 19 of the 20. So do give us an idea, please, Doctor.
Okay, so basically, thank you for having me. There are 19 demands. So first of all, there's no 20 demands from the National Association of Resident Doctors. There are just 19 of them. And I would say I took a look at them this morning again, and I realized that about 12 of those demands are basically amendments, policy amendments to how doctors go about their work. So for instance, the first one talks about burnout. Doctors are burned out. Doctors are running shifts of over 100 hours. You and I can work 9 to 5, you go home and then you rest. Doctors are doing that they are not going on rest for about 120 hours for those who are in surgery. And then for those who are maybe seeing patients, they can do calls for over 100 hours in a single week. And some of them stretch it 3 days going like that, and they are burnt out. And what Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors are saying is, a tired doctor is a dangerous doctor, is an ineffective doctor, is a doctor that would make mistakes. You can't keep working at stretch for 72 hours, getting burnt out.
What amendments are the doctors asking for in this regard?
That, first of all, they need more doctors in the
More
system.
doctors.
Yes, and I did a story recently, a documentary on this, available on YouTube, telling the story about what's going on in the healthcare system. And one of the things that the resident doctors actually shared with me was the fact that it takes a very long time for doctors to be recruited into the system, especially into the training system. And that is something that can be amended. That is, CMDs have to write to the, to the government to ensure that, oh, this quota, we need this quota, and that quota might not come in until late September or sometimes even in the new year.
That raises plenty more questions. I don't know if you agree with me, Queen, because if you're saying that you're waiting...
does.
Mr. Dwafi, we will be coming to you in just a minute, but I want to address this issue here. If you say doctors, there's a shortage of doctors. The fact is that when these doctors leave schools, they really, most of them don't even apply to Nigerian hospitals. Well,
Yes.
they might for residency, and then after that, there's the brain drain that we have to worry about. So is that also inside of the demands that the doctors are making?
Yes.
Any reference to the brain drain?
Yes, there is reference to the brain drain in as much as, concerns with, for instance, doctors are currently owed certain areas of over 5 years. So there are certain emoluments that are supposed and remunerations that are supposed to be paid to them, and they haven't got that for the past 5 years. Like if I'm to sum it up, between 3 to 5 years, and it's very unfair because these are people who give their life to the system. They, as a medical doctor, you're expected to show up at work at your best and try as much as possible to give your best to the patient. And it will be expected that the government or their employer, who is their principal employer, will ensure that the welfare of these doctors are met in such a way that they don't have to think about, oh, my salaries are being owed or anything. Because a doctor will work more time than anybody else. They will do 9 to 5 and then they will do calls, right? They will have call shifts. They will be there. They will always have to show up. They always have to be there. And yes, there is the Hippocratic Oath, and I always like to say, the part of the, the reviewed Hippocratic Oath mentions that a doctor has to focus on his own well-being. Because now there is an understanding that a doctor who is tired and exhausted cannot give the best care to their patient. That is why most times people go to the hospitals, they complain about the doctors not being kind to them.
It's because
I'm not making an excuse for bad behavior of certain doctors. Yes, there are some of them like that, but you could see them burnt out. They are fatigued. And many of these doctors that are giving care really need that care. They really need somebody to ask them, how are you doing, sir? Are you okay? How are you doing, ma? You look tired. Are you okay? Because many a times you will see that they are burnt out, they are fatigued, and they are exhausted.
Right. So before we come back, because this conversation is spiraling to different corners, my hand is already poking.
I've got more questions than...
But Mr. Dwafi, let's talk about the legal standpoint. He mentioned that there were 19 demands, but the government says it has met 19 of 20. What does this actually mean in a labor dispute term, Mr. Dwafi?
Well, what I know is that the National Association of Resident Doctors have 19 demands, and some of those demands relate to recall of some sacked workers. I think in one teaching hospital in Lokoja, when you lay off a worker and a union is calling for a recall, there would have to be a review process of the employment that has been terminated. So that in itself is not what you can just do by the click of the finger and get it done. Because the engagement between a worker and an employer is that of a contract. If a contract is terminated, restating the contract would also pass through some processes. I'm not here holding brief for anybody. Then there are also the cases of end arrears of allowances, which they are asking for. Then the issue of filling spaces that have been left for by doctors who have also moved abroad. And like the example my friend gave in the studio, okay, a vacancy exists. I want to fill that vacancy. How easy is the manpower market that you can easily tap to fill a vacancy that is created? I give an example even for myself as a legal practitioner, and I have a vacancy that requires a minimum of 15 years professional experience. Of course, I can't go and recruit a lawyer who's just done 5 years, because there is a reason why I need that 15-year experienced professional to fill that vacancy. Even in appointment for lawyers, before you can be a judge, you have to be 10 years post-call. Before you can be made a senior advocate, you have to be 10 years post-call. No matter the shortage of judges in this country, it would never happen that you get a lawyer that is less than 10 years into the judiciary. The law would not permit it. The system would crumble for it. So we agree that there is brain drain in this country. Lawyers, professionals, not just doctors right now. There is a movement, a massive movement of professionals out of the shores of this country. And I have a lot of my friends and colleagues that have done so. Yeah. So these issues are structural issues. They also require care and skill for some of the demands to be made. They are not demands that you can make by the click of the finger. Before you can become a consultant, it takes a process of training. Before you can become a professor, it takes a process of training. If a professor vacates his seat, you cannot just bring in any lecturer to fill the vacant position of a professor. So I think the Resident Doctors Association would have to take a broader look and know those demands that can be attended to immediately, while those that will take time to mature would have to be considered and separated. Otherwise, lumping them together will be a problem for any serious employer and organization.
And that there, what you've just said, is going to form the basis of what we'll discuss further from here when it regards to you. But did I hear you say that some of your friends have also fallen victim, or actually have also been advantaged by the brain drain? My question to you is, why haven't you joined them? Why are you still here, Mr. Odafi? But let's talk about the...
Yes, it's always an interesting discourse for me.
Yeah, I can tell.
There is no way I don't travel out of the shores of this country. And I find my fulfillment in this country than anywhere else. I have friends and colleagues that I have, my younger ones that also said they want to live out of the shores of the country. They are there. They are happy where they are. I'm super excited about where I am in Nigeria.
Now, Mr. Dwafi, let's talk about that excitement. I want to talk about that excitement for you as a lawyer. Let's relate it to the Hippocratic oath by the doctors. Doctors are very passionate about saving lives or even bringing forth life. However, we find that in this case here, they have, they've reneged on that. I'm using this, rather not too deliberately, but they've reneged on that Hippocratic oath, and I'm wondering where the law lies here. If they can say, if we don't get these demands, we will not go to work. Because the people who are suffering are the patients, the people who need healthcare. People are dying on a daily because of the absence of the doctors. So when it comes to labor law and doctors and the Hippocratic oath, what's your take on this?
It's a very tough question that we would all have to be sincere about in talking about it. I'm sure you also engage the medical services in this country. I have a reason to visit hospitals. I have a lot of, my cousin is a consultant in one of the teaching hospitals in Oyo State. I have very close friends that are also consultants. I have a very close friend that is a orthopedic surgeon and a consultant. The wife is also orthopedic, so is a consultant, but now outside the shores of the country. There is also, relating it to labor, apart from the Hippocratic Oath, I'm also looking at it from the standpoint of the law. The law designates medical services as essential services, just as it designates military services, security services, electricity services as essential services. And that is the Trade Union Essential Services Act. These have been designated as essential services. And for essential services, there is a limitation as to how you invoke your right to strike. There is also this argument that is wrong in my view that a lot of people make, relying on section, is it 30 for the right to strike? There is no right to strike in our constitution, but there is a freedom of association in our constitution. You can join an association. Even under the constitution, as a medical doctor, you can also choose not to join the Association of Medical Doctors. There are lawyers who do not belong to the NBA, and you cannot drag them, you cannot crucify them for it. Because if their purpose is not served by that association, then they will not join by whatever means. It's the same right that adheres to the freedom of religion. There are those who do not believe in any religion in this country and in the world. Even if the constitution says that you have the right to freedom of religion, there are those who are apolitical. It's the same right that adheres to unionism, that adheres to political parties, but you cannot compel anybody to join a political party. I think the situation we have in the country is that a lot of people take the law and they try to stretch it beyond its limit to their benefit. The Hippocratic oath is a very serious oath.
Do you think that's what the doctors are doing here? Do you think that's what they're doing now? Stretching it beyond its limit?
They are stretching, yes, they are stretching the law beyond.
Okay then, Mr. Odrafi, let's hear from the doctor in the studio here now. So, doctor, are you stretching the limits of the law here when it comes to the oath you're taking? And I'm talking generally now, not just you, I mean generally doctors who are going through this mess that we find the authorities and the doctors in.
Okay, so what I would say is that a lot of people have, especially, the leadership, have taken or used the Hippocratic Oath as an excuse to perpetrate all manner of injustice in the healthcare system, right? Some, part of the Hippocratic Oath talks about taking care of a patient to the best of your ability. What is the definition of the best of your ability in 2025? You don't have gloves in the hospital. There are no essential medications. Doctors still have to use their own money to pay for patients, their drugs, their medication, their tests, and all manner of things like that. Doctors are exhausted in the sense that they can't even take care of their own self, because part of the Hippocratic Oath also says that I will be of sound mind. Like it talks about you being in a state of sound, being sound enough to take care of a patient. A tired doctor, like I always say, is an exhausted doctor. You cannot expect that a doctor, because of the fact that he has taken an oath, he will not rest, he would not sleep, he would be derived of growth or career fulfillment. It is absolutely unfair and unjust. So I see that a lot of people, they are always very fast to jump on the oath. The oath talks about the commitment of a Nigerian doctor, or the commitment of a medical professional to the patient, and being able to take care of that patient to the best of their ability. If you go to other countries, in fact, you don't even need to go to developed countries of the world. You need to go to other countries, like for instance in Ghana or other West African countries, and see what's going on there. Now, for instance, a resident doctor, right, writes certain exams, and is expected, definitely when you pass your exams, you're already recognized as a specialist. In Nigeria, you are not being recognized as a specialist. You are lower than that. They don't give you the specialist certificate yet until you have become a consultant. Whereas that same exam, if you write it somewhere else in a West African country, in Ghana or somewhere else, you would already be recognized as a specialist. Now, the question that we keep asking ourselves is that why is the leadership of the country treating its doctors this way? Why is there a deliberate intention to frustrate doctors who have chosen to stay? Because yes, it's not every single doctor in Nigeria that wants to go. I was in Europe. I came back home to practice.
Welcome.
Right? And to the best of my knowledge, I've been happy being here. But then we still have to talk about these things. We still have to ensure that the Nigerian patient is the major beneficiary of this. And Nigerian doctors aren't striking because of themselves, you know. It is because the Nigerian patient is the ultimate beneficiary of the gains that are coming from this. Because, for instance, when a doctor has slept well, he has rested well, he will take care of his patients well. There is no question about it. He will definitely pay attention to you won't miss details. Have you noticed that whenever you don't sleep, you forget things?
True.
Now, the same, imagine that a doctor hasn't slept for 100 hours. Why wouldn't they forget something inside surgery or forget something in someone's abdomen? These are the things that happen. In other countries, this is abominable. Whatever it is that the government is currently doing to its doctors is abominable. It should not even happen. It should not even be done anywhere else. So the conversation isn't about the Hippocratic Oath. Doctors are always willing. And I would say that of all the industries that we currently have, Nigerian doctors are one of they take a lot of time before they go on strike. In fact, the reason why they are going on strike this time around definitively is because of the fact that these things have gone unanswered for several years. Arrears of over 2 years has not been paid. Imagine a doctor working 24 hours and up until now he's still being owed things of arrears of 2 years thereabout. So these are the issues. Until let me even finish with it. There is a national, if I was reviewing this before coming on set, there is a national health policy document that, you know, to combat health workforce migration that was created by the Federal Ministry of Health. People should go read and see what the Federal Ministry of Health has proposed for the health workforce and juxtapose it with what is currently existing.
Again, you know, gloomy week. Hope. You know, Lawale, you've talked about literally almost everything in the sense that we're losing our doctors.
I see you looking for that glimmer of hope.
I'm looking for it.
You're really searching for it, because at the end of the day, the ultimate sacrifice is paid by the patient.
Yes.
Not just the patient alone, but those who lose their lives. And while I understand, you know, the position of the doctors and how this is, I'm wondering, does it have to be a strike? Couldn't it be through dialogue? Can't some of the items on the list of demands be stricken off? For instance, why do people have to lose their lives for a reinstatement of doctors in 1 or 2 institutions, for instance? Okay. You know, if you can take these bits out of that 19, maybe we'll have 18, and maybe it's easier for the government to actually attend to.
Like I mentioned.
I'm sorry, I know you had a question. I jumped in there with mine.
Yes, like I mentioned. I read this 19, you know, I read them.
And 12 of them are policies.
And I can tell you that 12 of them are policies that if the government signs them today, the doctors will return back to work. And it is not about, many times the government will say that we will do it, we are going to do it. In fact, the reason why this strike happened is because conversations have been exhausted. Several times, in fact, the NAT president, Dr. Mohammed Suleiman, mentioned the fact that sometimes you go to the offices to meet with them, to converse with them. They don't even want to have time for you. You are not their problem yet. So it is basically this is a last. This is like a last straw that broke the camel's back.
It's a last straw and it's been breaking camel's back for 10 years.
Yes,
the problem.
And that also shows what is the commitment of the government to its doctors. That is kind of like, it shows, it is a reflection. This is like a pass mark to see, do we take healthcare seriously? And let's bring it to reality. Have you noticed that Nigerian politicians don't go to Nigerian hospitals? Have you ever asked yourself why that is? The reason why that isn't just for the reasons of, we don't have the best doctors. Nigeria, I can tell you, has some of the best doctors in the world right here in Nigeria and outside Nigeria.
I agree.
But they would prefer to go to those other systems where those countries have made effort to build systems that work. And they leave Nigerians, the average Nigerians like you and me, to battle with hospital systems that don't have lights, hospital systems that the doctors are being owed arrears and nurses are being frustrated and healthcare workers are not being compensated enough for the work that they do, where healthcare workers are exhausted from work. It is absolutely unfair. So I think the time for us to have that honest conversation, because all what we are saying is that let's have a honest conversation about healthcare and bring it bring it down to the reality of the Nigerian patient so that they can benefit. I can tell you that there are the reason why we are having doctors right here in Nigeria that are still practicing, that are still seeking the resident pathway, is because there is some hope that someday it is going to be better for them. I'll end with this, for now. When I came in 2014 and I started as a house officer, I was earning a net salary of about 172,000 naira, which was equivalent to about $1,100 at the time. Mm-hmm. Now, doctors who are doing their house officer, those that are interns, like in that same position, currently earn an equivalent of $150 if you are going to bring it. Mm-hmm. So you imagine that the purchasing power of a medical doctor has dropped by over 1,000%. So what a doctor could afford, what he could do
4 years ago,
10 years ago, 12 years ago, he can't even try or dream of it right now. And yet the workload is increasing.
Right.
Doctors are leaving, people are tired, and the system is not getting better.
Well, I still have that question for you, but now with all that you've said, I need to ask Mr. Oduofi. Mr. Oduofi, are there any legal policy that, that is in place that states that if an issue has been going on for so long, it needs to be resolved? And if there isn't any, don't you think we should create one if we keep having this recurring issue in our health system where we're losing doctors to other countries and then end up having citizens to suffer because they don't have enough doctors and then the ones they have are burnt out? Mr. Oduofi.
Honestly, there is a Trade Dispute Act that creates the Industrial Arbitration Panel. In this country, workers' union, more often than not, ignore completely that Industrial Arbitration Panel in the resolution of industrial disputes. The unions know, and that they never exploit that because government is always very easy to go at. He has raised, my friend has raised several issues. First off, let me deal with the issue of entry-level compensation. For every profession in this world, entry-level compensation is never sufficient. Never sufficient. A professional grows to reap the fruit of his training long after he has gotten to a certain stage in his profession. Same way in corporate organization. Entry-level requirement is never the in thing. You strive to grow to get to the management or directorate level before you can start earning big. We must know that there is a period of gestation for everything. So the issue of the entry-level demand, I think the doctors have to think about it very properly. Because don't also forget the fact that there are other professionals who are under the employment of the government, both federal, state, and local. So they might want to take a cue from what the doctors are doing. And correct me if I'm wrong, doctor, it's only the medical profession in the public service that has two different salary scales, the commerce and the cohers, which was put in place to assuage the yearnings and demands of the doctors way back in 1976. Lawyers don't have it. Accountants don't have it. Engineers don't have it. Having said that, I said this because I have sisters, brothers, cousins, friends who are doctors. And I said this without prejudice to their feelings and their rights. Now, we have if you are talking of, I have seen doctors that are burnt out because I attend hospitals. Because I'm a lawyer, I pay attention to what is not said more than what is said. And I engage them. Doc, you are tired. He would want to be hesitant. And I will tell you why. The number of private health institutions in this country is growing by the day. Serviced by the doctors in the Nigeria public health system. Let's face the truth. I agree that doctors are burning out. But there are doctors who have several calls with different private health institutions. So when you combine that, it adds to your number of hours. Because the doctor wants to earn more, because he's professionally capable to do so. So if you are blaming the burnout of doctors on government, I would say, with respect from where I sit, and from my personal experience, because I've had to go to public health institution, and I will be told that the doctor that will attend to me is not available. I have lost people because the doctors that will have attended to them, they were in private health institutions doing their private call.
Mr. Oduafi, just a second. I want to address...
Excuse me, sir. Let me bet it. This is nation building. I've spent over 2 decades as a lawyer. I'm committed to see Nigerian work in every facet of it, not just a section of it. My father died because in 1995, I lost my father. And I know the reasons why I lost my father. Then the health institutions were a bit better when the number of private institutions were not this much. You could see a doctor and discuss with the doctor easily. We have gone to a stage that profit drives a lot of the things that we do. And we must start addressing ourselves from that standpoint as humans who are committed to making the society work. You talk about Ghana. I have been to Ghana. I have been to a lot of African countries. The difference between us and those countries is attitude, human attitude, not essentially the norms and the laws that are different. So we must have a human attitude to what we do. Government should do more. Yes, I agree. Even me, I sit here as a private legal practitioner. If government gives me money, rightfully so, for a legal purpose, I will take it. But that should just be an aspect of my contribution to nation building.
All right.
I want government to pay arrears of allowances.
Okay, Mr. Oduafi. Mr. Oduafi, I couldn't help but notice that right here in the studio, there's this sense of indignance that Wale has about some of the comments that you have made, and I'd like him to please express himself. So, Dr. Ogunlana, if you don't mind.
So before it comes in, sir, the only way we can have a society work is for us to have an open conversation. Open conversation. Yeah. I don't hate doctors. I like doctors. They are my friends.
We all like doctors.
And I'm glad that you mentioned, I'm actually quite glad that you mentioned that you are not a doctor. And I would say this, because you are observing from outside. The first question we must ask ourselves is that why are doctors working elsewhere? So right now, based on the stats, Nigeria has just basically roughly 40,000 hospitals or private hospitals, if we are to put it like that, if we are to get a round number, 40,000 to service a population of 200 million people.
Let me do the calculation.
It is not even enough. It is not even enough, right? So that is even the first question. That's even the first problem. The problem is that we do not have enough doctors, whether the ones that are currently in training, that are in medical schools, whether the ones that are currently residents. He was talking about, a resident entry pay. I am talking about a specialist in training. He has already gone through medical school. He has done his internship. He has done NYSC. He has done specialist. He's now in specialist, becoming a consultant. And these people can barely earn a living wage that justifies. Imagine a doctor spending almost 140 hours in a week working, and yet you can't pay the bills of your family, you can't pay the bills of people. What happens then? You have to look and ask yourself, what other creative ways can I sustain my family?
And I was told even to get certificates are really expensive.
Yes, and you have to read, you have to buy books, you have to write exams, and all of these things cost money, right? When we talk about the fact that doctors are not well taken care of, it is not a matter of there are 2 salary structures for what exactly is the salary structure. And for instance, now let's talk about the CONMES that I was talking about. These resident doctors were downgraded on CONMES. They were downgraded from from the entry level, which was a step 3, down to a step 2. They were taken down. Why? The question we now ask ourselves is that why is it downgrade? Because once a downgrading happens, it means that your pay goes down as well. Why is that happening? Knowing fully well that these doctors are doing more work, are tired and are exhausted. Everything that he mentioned is the result of a broken system. It is not the doctors that are causing this, right? It is the system that is allowing doctors to adapt. A doctor will look at himself and say that, what have I achieved in the last 5 years? There are doctors right now who have sold their properties, sold like real properties, because they cannot afford to take care of some of these their responsibilities anymore. And we are asking the government, make sure you are the greatest player in this, to regulate it, to show to have it, or to give a show of faith that we are with you in this. And the government is saying nothing. They are rather saying that, oh, they are being militant about it. The fact is, unlike him, right? He does 9 to 5. You go home. A doctor doesn't do that. A doctor will do that and will still have to perform a shift. Now, there are doctors, there are needs when it comes to healthcare professionals, not just in the public system, in the private system as well. But because we do not have enough of those doctors, right? We don't have enough to service every hospital. I have hospitals in this country, right? And I run them. And I understand that these doctors cannot just be in one place. They are always needed somewhere else. Nigeria, for instance, he mentioned the fact that, oh, they are going to other private settings. Nigeria currently has less than 50 neurosurgeons in Nigeria.
50?
Less than 50.
Let's talk about the availability of these doctors and the fact that there's also one of the demands inside of these 12-point demands regarding locum doctors, emergency staff, and also IPPIS migration.
Yes.
Does that fall in here?
Yes, and this was part of the issues that the Nigerian resident doctors raised. Stop casualizing doctors. Do not casualize us. Let them have proper contracts. Let them come in. Let them have a growth scale. Let there be some career path of growth for them. These are part of the conversation.
Doctors don't have proper career paths?
Some of them, especially some that might be locums, right? They are just recognized as contract staff.
These are temporary.
Yes, so temporary, right? So they are casualized, if you are to put it like that. These people are casualized. So like what we are trying to say here is that the first person to show faith in the healthcare system should be the government. They have to come in and tell us that we are ready for you. We understand that you're the front runners of the healthcare system, and we need you to make sure that you are able to do your work well, and you are psychologically, financially, mentally, physically supported to go about your work. That is exactly the conversations that we are talking. He was talking about us having an open conversation. This is the open conversation that we need to have. Nigeria has roughly about 3,000 consultants, specialists, for the whole country, or maybe should I say 5,000. There are currently 8,000 or 8,500 resident doctors across the country. How many of them for a population of 200 million people? Tell me, why wouldn't they be needed in private hospital settings? So this is not a result. He makes it look as if the doctor is just going out there. They are needed out there.
Okay. Oh, we've run out of time.
Yeah.
Mr. Odrafi, real quick. Most of your comments or expressions have been to the doctors. What advice, what suggestion would you have for the authorities, the Nigerian government, as they have been in this battle, locked horns for so many years now?
Yeah, I have said, let it not seem as if I'm not a government spokesperson. I don't want.
We're aware.
I want him to understand. I'm not a government spokesperson. If the system works, I'm the beneficiary, right? And because I'm hurt by the system, I know that it's not a one-way forked thing. It's from here to here. So what I would advise government to do is like I'm also telling the doctors, let's have an open conversation. If you are making a demand, you know the ones that is immediately realizable. Let's isolate. You see, a lot of people can help doctors to agitate if all of these demands are not lumped together. 19 demands, there is no way any organization in the world will satisfy 19 demands with a one bullet shot. So let's isolate them and categorize them. In law, that is what we do. The one for the immediate, the one for the medium, and the one for the long term. If we know those demands, then we can put pressure. But for the end allowances, my brother and my doctor friend, who is now a content creator, I'm a legal practitioner. I don't create content. I don't create content. I provide solutions to live issues. Doctors' issues, patient issues, they are live issues. We cannot theorize about them. we can only offer practical solutions. Let doctors be paid their end allowances, period. Then for the 5 doctors that were relieved of their duty in Lokoja, we can sit down and say, okay, when we sort out our end allowances, let us now deal with those doctors that were terminated. The law is that if you are an employee that enjoys statutory flavors, and doctors that work for government are employment with statutory flavor, even if you are not reinstated today, the day that you are reinstated, you are paid your allowances back end. So it would seem as if you never left work. So the law is standing there in your protection. So we can deal with that. Then for investment in the health sector, we have said it. There is no way government funding can deal with the issues in the health sector. We will certainly need private sector investment in the health services sector. For medical education, that means that we have to, the Doctors Association and the government have to sit down and design a deliberate policy that would make health education a lot more accessible for the teeming number of Nigerians who want to be health workers, like doctors and nurses. That is a long term, on the long term, not the immediate. So you cannot, that's why I say we can segmentize them and deal with them as they come. I know that for medical schools in all universities, they take less students. Here, public admin will take 1,000 in one school admission. Medical sciences will only take 10 or 5, depending on the capacity of the medical department in that institution. Right. In fact, there are universities that don't even have medical services faculties. My friend knows.
Well, Mr. Gabriel, if we stay here, we will not finish this conversation.
Both of you are just a bit too passionate about this subject, and we understand.
Yes, thank you. We can tell that you have a lot of hope from your point of view, and we appreciate that. We thank you for joining us to have this discussion for Nigerians to see what's going on and how this issue is developing. So we appreciate you for joining, Mr. Gabriel Odrafi, and of course, Lale, thank you so much, Dr. Lale, and content creator.
Yes.
We appreciate you coming and shedding more light. This is something that we need to know because the health sector is like our eye.
Yes, it is.
If we're not seeing, I don't know how we're going to move forward. But yeah,
exactly.
Let's go on a quick break, and when we come back, we have our last conversation within the hour. Stay tuned. Well, thank you for staying with us. This is still Breakfast Extra. And the way we tell stories, use data, and engage citizens is evolving. And Africa's next decade will be shaped by how well we adapt. And this week, Abuja hosts the 2025 Media and Development Conference, a 4-day gathering of journalists, policymakers, researchers, and civil society actors from across the continent. Under the theme, reimagining democracy, development, and data for the next decade, the conference promises conversations on transparency, technology, and accountability, all vital for the continent's growth.
Yes, indeed. Let me help you with that. That's reimagining democracy, development, and data for the next decade.
Thank you,
Nazina.
Nazina.
So get that right. You're welcome, Queen. So joining us to give insight ahead of the event is Ifeanyi Chukwudi, Program Manager at the Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development. Chukwudi, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Chukwudi. I'll go with Ifeanyi from now on if you do not mind. Ifeanyi, thank you for joining us. So Ifeanyi, first off, give us an overview of the 2025 Media and Development Conference, its objectives, who's going to be there, and who is it meant for?
Thank you very much for having me. The Media and Development Conference, or CGID, is basically a space for conversations about critical development issues and the role that the media has to play in setting the agenda and shaping, the trajectory of solutions for these issues. For 2025, like we've said, the theme is reimagining democracy, data, and development for the next decade. And this comes at a very important time where we're seeing a wave of democratic backsliding across the region. We're seeing the growth of artificial intelligence and the various impact it can have on rights and democracy. We're also seeing donor cuts and funding cuts and the threats that it poses to independent media in the country. And so this year, we're looking at how we can respond to this as a country, respond to these issues as a region, and come up with solutions that would work. So we're going to have about 500 delegates in the room. We'd have policymakers, we'd have journalists, we'd have tech people from the tech sector. We're going to have a broad range of stakeholders, and it's going to be promises to be very interesting and impactful conversation.
Right. With your theme, you're talking democracy, data, AI, development. Those are broad themes. And of course, we've seen not once, not twice, different people come up with conversations on how to, develop different things in Nigeria. So what are the key sessions or panels that attendees should look out for, and why should they look out for this particular conference?
Interesting. So we have a lot of panels. It's a 4-day power-packed conference. We will start off with conversations around democracy. ECOWAS marked 50 years this year, and there've been a range of conversations about legitimacy, especially with the exit of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger from ECOWAS. So we're going to be looking at how and where we go from here with regards to regional integration when members are leaving. We're going to have conversations around independent media and civic space resilience. A couple months ago, we launched our CGID Openness Index that tracks the state of press freedom on a subnational level in Nigeria. We're going to have ongoing conversations around that and what it means to say that some states are very closed and some states are open with regards to press freedom. Going on from there, we'll have conversations around corruption in the extractive sector. For the past couple of years, we've been working around investigating and constraining opportunities for corruption in the critical mineral sector. We're going to be looking at the flow of capital and how media and how stakeholders can, plug the gaps for corruption within that sector. We'll be talking about climate change and beyond COP30 and where we go from there as a continent. We're going to be talking about foreign influence and manipulation, information disorder, artificial intelligence as well. We have a whole day, focused on AI. And we're going to be looking at how AI is being developed and how it can be developed ethically, how AI should be governed, who owns our data, just to ensure that we're building systems that work for us, to ensure that African voices, African data, and African values are represented in the technology that is increasingly telling us how to think, increasingly telling us what to think and how to make decisions. On the 4th day, we'll be focused on health. A couple weeks ago, the ministry put out a red letter, basically, championing citizens to push for accountability within the PHC system. So we're going to be bringing stakeholders in the room to look at our healthcare system and how we can, address the challenges herein and put forth some solutions. So we'll be having executive secretaries of PHCs across the states. We'll be having commissioners of health. We'll be having journalists and policymakers in the room, just to ensure that more than preaching to the choir, we have decision makers in the room, who can take up the solutions and get some action along the way.
Very interesting that you should mention AI. We're very excited about AI here, but I'll save that question for Queen. For me, what I'd like to ask is about these stakeholders. You talked about journalists, you talked about policymakers, technology. There's so much that this conference packs in. And if you know conferences, they're all about presentation, participation. You get a badge and then it's done after 5 days. People go back home. But how does this conference intend to take care of the issues of collaboration with these different people that are coming through, these different stakeholders that are coming through for the conference? How do you take it beyond just presentation and into actual collaboration or dialogue between or within these stakeholders?
Yeah.
Very, very interesting question. And if we've worked in the space, we know that a lot of meetings hold every day and every week here. So we're moving beyond presentations. In fact, the conference is not structured in a lecture style presentation. So we're going to have panel sessions that will be moderated by experts, within the field who know how to facilitate such dialogue. It's going to be very, very interactive because the people who will be in the room are also experts within their rights. And we're not just
but if I, while I understand that, and I think that you have actually represented that in your previous submissions, I'm talking about after the conference. What happens after the conference, after all the presentations? Are there going to be dialogues, like real dialogues and collaboration within these stakeholders that are coming through for the conference?
Okay. Yes, the short answer is yes. So as a center, we are focused. These issues that we'll be talking about are not just issues that we think we want to talk about in this conference. They are issues that we are working on as a center. Over the past couple of years, 2 to 5 years, we've been working. We have active projects that are working along climate change. We have an active AI project. We have an active project in the extractive space. And we've been working with all of these stakeholders. All of these stakeholders are our partners. So there are various plans for collaboration. We'll be taking on all the outcomes from this conference into our core CGID programming, and we'll make sure that we follow through on the commitments that are being made in the room. How we're structuring the sessions is that we don't just want to rehash the challenges. We want to come out with solutions. We want to come out with commitments. The stakeholders who are in the position to act, who will be in the room, we will have them make commitments, say this is what we're going to do as an agency, and definitely we'll follow through with them as a center, and we'll work with our partners to ensure that we don't just leave it as talk, but we do something right after the conference. So definitely, yes, there'll be collaboration going forward.
Well, I like the hope in your voice, but of course we've seen that, AI has fake voices, fake faces, a lot of things done with AI. I think one of the favorite ones is the cat and the lion and the things on social media, but let me not go there. It's so funny. But what are the safeguards that you've put in place? Because if everybody's coming, then people will come for the conference for a solution. So what are the safeguards that you've put in place for AI, for our democratic process and all?
So how we're working basically is through our programming, right? We're doing a lot of work working with stakeholders to look at artificial intelligence, how AI is being developed and deployed in Nigeria, and what the conditions are, and how, what role we have to play. We've been training journalists on how to, leverage AI for journalism, understand how AI is impacting journalism, and how we need to be telling stories about these emerging technologies. We've been working with CSOs, interrogating how AI should be governed, how, what policies or laws or whatever it is that is required to govern, and ensure that these emerging technologies flourish, So we are basically, our intervention is basically through our programs and projects, just to ensure that we're, playing our quota, in ensuring that AI we're not just at the receiving end, but we're actively contributing to shaping AI governance globally. And basically, that's it. But for misinformation, we definitely have no problems with misinformation for the conference. We have a very strong fact-checking team that will ensure that there are no deepfakes.
Deepfakes indeed. If I may, I ask you, please step away from being someone who's perhaps maybe embroiled in the organization of this conference for a second. I want to ask you a personal question about AI, journalism, and democracy. We've seen this in other climes where deepfakes, like you said, have been used untowardly for certain reasons. Now, here in Nigeria, if you're talking about policies, for instance, that have to be put in place to help control AI and its use, especially when it comes to journalism, what challenges do you see Nigeria having, noting how difficult it is to get policies underway in Nigeria? What challenges do you see when it comes to press, AI, and democracy?
So the challenges are a lot. We've talked about deepfakes, the potential for misinformation, the potential for inciting violence, the potential for impacting on elections and election integrity. So the challenges are a lot, but with governance, we also have to be careful so that we're not putting policies in place or laws in place that stifle innovation. There has to be a fair balance to it. And that's what our work with CSOs, is geared towards doing, to ensure that we're working with people who are building these technology solutions. We're working with people who understand how to govern or how to create frameworks that govern emerging technologies like this, and understanding our local context, so we are able to, put frameworks in place that enable AI to scale, but also ensure that we're mitigating against the risks and the potential harms that these technologies can come with. So basically, the challenges are a lot, but we are focused on, what role we have to play in ensuring that we, find a common ground in the middle, because we've seen in various times how some legislations, basically legislations that should govern or do some good have been weaponized, to criminalize investigative journalism, criminalize journalism, basically. So we want to avoid a repeat of that, to ensure that any form of policy, any form of governance is one that is coming from a place of understanding of the local context, and also forward-looking and future-looking, in the sense that you are able to govern, but you are able to give opportunity for innovation to thrive and scale.
Well, so of course we see that conferences always sound good, and there are a lot of promises and all that, but turning them into, when you finally get what you want, turning them into government policy can be a huge, like a huge leap. So let's talk funding. How are you going to get funding for this? We already see that different doctors, ASU strike and everything, everybody's talking about funding issues. So how do you tend to do that?
So this is a very important question that will be answered at the media conference.
Yes,
and that's why we're here, and that's why I think that this conversation is critical. Because take, for example, the healthcare sector. Part of the conversations we're going to be having is, what is the cost of primary healthcare? What does it cost to deliver quality healthcare services to the people at the local level? And in light of the recent donor cuts, funding cuts for the media, funding cut for health, funding cut for almost every program that we need for sustainable development, how do we go on from here? So we're going to have government stakeholders in the room who are going to tell us what they can do, what government can do to mobilize resources for healthcare, because we have to take charge of our own development agenda. We have to take charge of our own development trajectory, but we know that government cannot do it alone. So we're also going to have private sector players in the room. So private sector will tell us, what can you do? We see private sector across the world who are committed to funding development issues within their countries. So we're going to have private sector partners in the room. We're going to have development partners in the room who can also tell us, what we can do, to move on from here. So funding is a very critical issue, but I know that if we look within ourselves, within our local philanthropy, within our government, government may have to, rejig their priorities, maybe set some priorities straight that are not currently straight, but if we bring our hands together, definitely that funding issue, we can find a path forward. But it's something to watch out for at MDC.
Ifai Chukudi, I think it's your confidence for me. So we're looking forward to the conference. And of course, we are going to have representatives there. Chemunda Beng will be representing us. I think she's taking a panel. As well as Tulu Adilaru Balogun. She will also be present at the conference, one of the days at the conference. But Ifai, thank you very much for making it up on Breakfast Extra here to discuss what's coming and what to look out for. And well, we're excited. Almost as much as you are, in fact, more than you are, because we can see the excitement in your face. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Grand. We're almost at the end of the show now.
Almost.
That's because we still have to get to South Africa. What are we doing there again?
Well, it's still the day 2 of the G20 summit. And of course, we have our new central correspondent, Bongani Sisiba, and Israel Afurbo. I think let's cross over now and, ask Bongani what's happening. Bongani, good morning. Can you give us an update of what's happening over there at G20?
It's still morning 11:51 here in South Africa, I guess around 10 in Nigeria. And we are still at the G20 summit. That is the second day of the summit. Leaders are in closed sessions, deliberations. We know that President Cyril Ramaphosa had an opening session also speaking to the leaders that are there, and soon around 1:30 we are going to have a media briefing. The Turkish president is going to address the media. What he's going to speak about, we don't know yet, but the media will be allowed to ask questions. But as you can see, we have guests that we have here, journalists from different countries. I have a journalist from Botswana. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here. How has been your experience here at the G20?
Good morning. It's been such an incredible experience. I must say, quite exciting for the media as well. Personally, I loved the fact that, in terms of, information. The South African government made it a point that there is no time where we go for such a long time without getting, enough updates. They were available from the government spokesperson to the Ministry of International Relations spokesperson. They were there availing information. But otherwise also, because of the fact that this is the first time Africa is hosting G20, I think in that aspect is quite interesting, because we are getting to, to lead the pack when it comes to, information sharing with the whole world. So they are getting onto our social media pages to see what is happening and who said what. So it's such an incredible time for, what a time to be alive.
And as an African, how important is it? We are from Botswana, you are South Africans in this, and it's the G20. How important is it that African countries also are included? And we have seen Vice President from Nigeria also speaking, President Cyril Ramaphosa, taking that stand to put Africa on the map.
Yes, I think what I have noticed with African, governments that are here, the fact that they are presenting such a united, united voice. We are, literally just coming to the world and setting the record straight for a lot of, things that we've, a lot of, information that has been out there. Some of it, false. So what we have seen is that we are now setting the record straight. This is a time for Africa to present a united front.
I think we're having issues there with the connection, but we will continue to bring you updates from South Africa, where we have our new central correspondents, Israel Efirobo and Bongani Sisiba, at the G20 as it has commenced its day 2.
Yes.
We're looking for more conversations to come out of that, and of course we'll be bringing that to you. Apologies there that we can't continue. Now, it's that time of the day, of the weekend, when we get to say our good. You're a bit too excited to be ending the show. It should be the other way around. You should be sad we're ending. But then we're excited because it doesn't end here. Every weekday morning, you should expect to see the trio of Johansson, Bengagborowa, and what's the name of the lady we have in the morning again?
Judith.
Judith's going to be on. It's not going to be Judith now,
I think so.
Okay, so you're going to be enjoying Breakfast Central from Monday from 7 a.m. But from us, I bet, we would like to say thank you very much for being a part of our weekend. Every single day this weekend from 8 a.m. up until now. And of course, enjoying all our content that we have brought to you. Want to say anything before we go?
Well, God bless you. Have a good day and be safe out there.